Tyrion's trial is one of the most satisfying scenes in Game of Thrones because it takes years of frustration and gives it one clear ending. For most of his life, Tyrion has believed that being useful could protect him. He knows people hate him for being a dwarf. He knows his father is ashamed of him. He knows Cersei has blamed him for their mother's death since they were children. So Tyrion builds value in other ways. He reads more than most people around him. He learns how politics works. He becomes funny because humor gives him control over insults before someone else can use them against him. Most importantly, he becomes useful. That strategy works for a long time. When Tyrion becomes Hand of the King, he is very good at the job. He manages Joffrey, fights with Cersei, prepares King's Landing for Stannis, and eventually takes command during the Battle of the Blackwater. Joffrey leaves the battlefield. Tyrion stays. He leads men through the Mudgate and nearly dies protecting a city that mostly treats him like a joke. After the battle, Tywin arrives and receives the glory. Tyrion wakes up badly injured. He loses his position as Hand. Nobody gives him the recognition he thought he earned. That should have warned him. Tyrion still believes there is some amount of usefulness that will eventually force people to respect him. The trial proves there is not. Joffrey dies at his own wedding, and Tyrion immediately becomes the perfect suspect. He hated Joffrey. Everybody knew it. He had threatened him before. Joffrey had humiliated him in public only moments before dying. Cersei does not need a complicated explanation. She already believes Tyrion is capable of it. So the trial becomes less about finding out who killed Joffrey and more about building a story around the person they already want to blame. That is why the witnesses are so effective. Most of them do not need to completely lie. They take real things Tyrion said and remove the reason he said them. Tyrion threatened Joffrey because Joffrey was cruel. Now the threat becomes evidence of murder. Tyrion insulted Joffrey because Joffrey constantly abused people. Now the insults become proof that Tyrion hated the king enough to kill him. The court is taking Tyrion's entire relationship with Joffrey and rewriting it after Joffrey is dead. Tyrion understands what is happening, but he still tries to survive it. That part matters because Tyrion does not begin the trial planning some dramatic final stand. He is willing to compromise. Jaime secretly makes a deal with Tywin. If Tyrion asks for mercy, Tywin will send him to the Night's Watch instead of executing him. In exchange, Jaime will leave the Kingsguard, become heir to Casterly Rock, and finally give Tywin what he has wanted for years. It is a terrible deal for Tyrion. He would have to admit guilt for a murder he did not commit. He would lose his life in King's Landing. He would be sent north and spend the rest of his years at the Wall. Tyrion is prepared to accept it. He understands that pride means very little if he is dead. That is why Shae's testimony changes the scene completely. Cersei hating Tyrion does not surprise him. Tywin refusing to protect him does not surprise him either. Shae is different because Tyrion once believed that relationship existed outside all of this. He loved her. He also knew that being close to him made her vulnerable. When Tywin threatened to have her killed if Tyrion continued seeing her, Tyrion eventually tried to force Shae away. He did it cruelly because he believed being cruel was the only way she would actually leave. Tyrion insults her. He tells her she is nothing more than a prostitute. He makes her believe he no longer wants her. From Tyrion's point of view, he destroys the relationship to save her. Then she walks into the courtroom. Shae begins telling the court private details about their relationship. She turns the names they use for each other into a joke. She describes Tyrion as pathetic and obsessed with her. The room laughs. That laughter is more important than the accusation itself. Tyrion has heard people laugh at him his entire life. Usually he controls it. He makes the joke first. He acts like nothing can embarrass him. Here, he cannot control anything. He is standing on trial for his life, while the woman he loved turns their private relationship into entertainment for people who already despise him. That is the moment where Tyrion stops trying to save himself through cooperation. And this is where the audience's satisfaction really comes from. Tyrion has spent years adjusting himself to survive other people. He jokes because people mock him. He becomes useful because Tywin does not respect him naturally. He tolerates Joffrey because Joffrey is king. He accepts that Jaime and Tywin are negotiating his future without him because it might keep him alive. Shae's testimony finally makes that strategy impossible. There is no dignity left in accepting the deal. So Tyrion changes the purpose of the trial. He stops trying to prove that he did not kill Joffrey. Instead, he starts explaining why he hated him. That difference is important. Tyrion admits that Joffrey was horrible. The audience knows he is right because we watched it happen. Joffrey ordered Ned Stark's death. He humiliated Sansa. He enjoyed hurting people. He used his position to torment anyone weaker than him. Tyrion was one of the only people who consistently stood up to him. When Joffrey abused Sansa, Tyrion defended her. When Joffrey acted like a coward, Tyrion said so. When Joffrey needed to be challenged, Tyrion was willing to do it even though Joffrey was king. Now those moments are being used against him. That is why Tyrion admitting his hatred feels satisfying instead of suspicious. The court expects him to apologize for hating Joffrey. Tyrion knows the audience has spent 4 seasons hating Joffrey with him. So when he says he wishes he had killed him, the line lands because it releases something that has been building for a long time. Then Tyrion turns toward the people of King's Landing. This is where the speech connects directly back to Blackwater. Tyrion tells them that he saved the city. He is right. He helped prepare the defense. He used wildfire against Stannis' fleet. When the battle started collapsing, he went outside and led soldiers himself. He nearly died doing it. The city survived. A few seasons later, many of those same people are sitting in a courtroom laughing while Tyrion faces execution. That gives his anger a reason. Tyrion does not suddenly hate the people of King's Landing because he is losing a trial. He is angry because he finally understands how little his sacrifice bought him. That is the larger story of Tyrion up to this point. He repeatedly believes that performance can overcome prejudice. If he is intelligent enough, they will respect him. If he serves the family well enough, Tywin will value him. If he saves the city, people will remember. The trial tells him that none of those things changed the basic way people saw him. Tywin gives us the clearest example earlier in the series. After Tyrion survives Blackwater and loses his position as Hand, he goes to Tywin and asks for Casterly Rock. Jaime is in the Kingsguard and cannot inherit. By normal rules, Tyrion has a legitimate claim. Tywin refuses him, and Tywin does not refuse because Tyrion is incompetent. Tyrion has just helped save the capital. Tywin refuses because he cannot accept Tyrion as the public future of House Lannister. That conversation matters at the trial because Tyrion has already been given the answer once. His success will never be enough for Tywin. He just had not fully accepted it yet. Now Tywin is sitting above him as a judge. Cersei is helping build the case. Shae is humiliating him. The people he helped save are laughing. All of these separate problems finally become one problem. Tyrion has spent his life asking people to judge him by what he does. They keep judging him by what they already believe he is. That is why the line about being guilty of being a dwarf works so well. It takes the entire trial and reduces it to one sentence. Tyrion believes he was guilty in their eyes before Joffrey was ever poisoned. The murder simply gave them a legal reason to act on it. The audience has enough history to understand why he feels that way. We have seen Tywin reject him. We have seen Cersei hate him. We have watched strangers insult him. We have seen him save people who later ignore what he did. So Tyrion does not need to explain every wound separately. The scene has already done that work over 4 seasons. He can simply say it. That is also why Peter Dinklage's performance works so well here. Tyrion normally protects himself with humor. He speaks quickly. He makes clever observations. He often turns uncomfortable situations into jokes before anyone else can. During the speech, most of that disappears. Tyrion is no longer trying to be entertaining. He is angry enough to stop making himself easier for other people to handle. That change makes the scene feel dangerous. He is standing in front of Tywin, Cersei, and an entire court with almost no power. He still manages to change the atmosphere of the room because he stops behaving like a defendant begging for approval. He starts judging them. That is the reversal the audience enjoys. For most of the trial, Tyrion is trapped inside a story everyone else is telling about him. The witnesses describe his actions. Cersei decides his motives. Tywin controls the courtroom. Jaime and Tywin even create a plan for Tyrion's future without letting Tyrion control it. During the speech, Tyrion finally gets to describe them. He tells King's Landing what he thinks of its gratitude. He tells the court what he thought of Joffrey. He tells Tywin indirectly how little the judgment means to him now. He cannot physically escape the room. He can stop accepting their version of events. Then he demands trial by combat. That decision is what prevents the speech from being only emotional. Tyrion actually changes what happens next. Tywin had a controlled outcome. Tyrion would confess. Jaime would leave the Kingsguard. Tyrion would go north. Casterly Rock would have the heir Tywin wanted. Everything was arranged. Once Tyrion demands trial by combat, Tywin loses that certainty. Now the result depends on violence. Tyrion has no idea who will fight for him. Jaime cannot realistically do it. Bronn has his own interests. The Mountain is one of the most dangerous men in Westeros. Tyrion still chooses that option. He chooses uncertainty because the safe option now requires him to accept a lie in front of people who have spent the trial humiliating him. That is why standing his ground feels like courage. He is not making a speech because he knows he has a secret plan. He may have just made his chances of survival worse. The next part of the story proves it. Oberyn Martell eventually volunteers to fight for Tyrion because killing Gregor Clegane gives Oberyn a chance to avenge Elia Martell. For a while, Tyrion's gamble looks like it might work. Oberyn is faster than the Mountain. He wounds him. Gregor falls. Tyrion looks close to being saved. Then Oberyn refuses to finish the fight until Gregor confesses. The Mountain recovers and kills him. Tyrion's decision at the trial almost gets him executed. That consequence matters. If Tyrion's speech had immediately solved everything, the scene would feel like a victory speech. It is stronger because Tyrion knows he might die and says it anyway. The audience is not celebrating because Tyrion has won. He has not. They are celebrating because there is a point where surviving by cooperating becomes its own kind of loss. Tyrion reaches that point when Shae enters the courtroom. Until then, he can still tell himself that taking Tywin's deal is practical. After Shae's testimony, the entire trial becomes a public statement about what Tyrion is allowed to be. A murderer, a joke, an embarrassment, a dwarf who should be grateful that his family allows him to live. Tyrion finally refuses the role. That is why the scene works so much better than a simple, angry speech. Every part of it has been prepared earlier. Blackwater explains why he resents King's Landing. Casterly Rock explains why Tywin's judgment means so much to him. His relationship with Shae explains why her betrayal breaks his willingness to cooperate. His history with Joffrey explains why he refuses to pretend the dead king deserves his respect. His entire life as a dwarf explains why he believes the verdict existed before the trial started. By the time Tyrion demands trial by combat, all of those stories have joined together. He is not suddenly becoming brave. He has reached the end of a strategy that no longer works. For years, Tyrion tried to earn his place. At the trial, he understands that some people had already decided where his place was. So he stops asking them to change their minds. And for the audience, after watching him try for 4 seasons, that refusal feels like one of the few things nobody in the room can take away from him.